Hi, today we're going to talk about fear of spiders. Have you ever felt like stuck in a room and facing a spider, or being in a shower and suddenly a spider is along? How does that make you feel? Do you scream, or you just move it away, or you just kill it? Or you just froze and wait for somebody helping you. Well, we're going to talk about fear of spiders today, and we have a lovely guest today, Flic, who's a journalist. Flic, thank you very much for joining us today. And fear of spiders. So when did that start?
It's been for as long as I can remember. The first time I actually remember being frightened of a spider, I suppose, was when I was about 6. We were on holiday in Kent, and it was autumn, and there were all the very big harvest spiders with the very, very long legs all over the porch of the very old cottage that we were staying in. And I remember my grandma, who was with us, didn't like them. And I think I must have picked up on that, but I may have been scared of them even before that. I don't ever remember not being scared of spiders.
Okay, you're right. We can actually pick up on fear for coping behavior. We can actually seeing somebody's reaction and then say, well, okay, but my grandma knows better than me. Yeah. Therefore, if she's behaving like this, then there must be a danger. Therefore, I should also protect myself and react like this. Yeah. So we can pick up fear as a copy behavior or as an experience in ourselves. And usually the strange thing is when you're scared of something, you can attract it even more in your life. Like you see spiders more, or you see whatever like I have a lady, I interviewed a lady who's scared of frogs, and she saw frogs in her gardens. Well, I've got a garden, I've never seen frogs. So what I'm saying is sometimes energetic wise we sort of attract it a bit more, which is not, but your fear is not so bad in the sense that you actually managed to say the words. You actually say, and you actually managed to talk about it.
Yes. So, I've got a friend who's so frightened of snakes that she can't even look at the word written down, and will just go into an absolute panic attack if she sees the word. I'm nowhere near that bad. So for me, it's about the reality of spiders. I don't really like looking at pictures of big spiders, when sometimes people post them on social media and saw a really big spider, like, oh my God, and I have to
I actually did. If anybody who goes on my actually TikTok or Instagram, I put a TikTok with spider crawling on, and I didn't, and one lady said to me, I opened your Instagram and I literally threw my phone behind her in the room. So, okay, it wasn't meant to be for that, but it was quite, but I've cleared a lot of different fears in people, but fear of spiders. What I'm saying, there are different levels. I've saw somebody online who, for her, it was really like even a little dot, a dark or black little dot on the floor or on a wall was considered, she thought it was a spider. So that's the level of phobia, more than a fear. And people can't say the word spiders. Sometimes they just can't see pictures, or they react with pictures. You seem to be quite comfortable just talking about it in certain ways.
As long as I don't have to be in a room with one, I don't mind talking about it. That's it.
So what would happen if there was suddenly one? What's the reaction?
Okay, right now, if I saw a reasonably sized spider, I can cope with tiny ones like the little money spiders. I can deal with that as long as they're not on me. If I saw a big spider, I would have to leap up. I would not be in the frame anymore because I'd be out of the room, holding my head, waiting for my partner to come back and deal with it, because I couldn't be in the same room as it.
I helped a lady in Australia, and I've never been in Australia, but obviously in Australia there's quite a few spiders, and they usually come into the shower. So I helped her, and it was great for her not to have fear of spiders, because apparently there are quite a lot of them there.
It's funny you should say that, because I have a couple of friends who've been and lived in Australia for a while, and I had a close family member who lived there for a bit, and I always thought I can't go and visit them even if I could afford it, because I'm so scared of the spiders they have there, because they're so huge, and they have jumping spiders and redback spiders and spiders, and I just thought, oh no, I don't want to be in a country that has spiders that big. It's not natural, and
Yeah, so that was yeah, it was very much needed to be done for her, because obviously living in Australia, that's something that really needed to be done. But what Flic, what would be the feeling? What comes in? What happen suddenly if you see one? What would be the feeling that you would feel in your body? What would that feel like?
Well, I was thinking about this because I knew I was going to be talking to you about it, and I was trying to explain it to my partner, and I said it's not a fear that it's going to do something to me. It's an absolute horror and revulsion. It's disgust, horror.
It's more like a feeling.
Yeah, it's like, I just want to be away from it. I'm horrified. So it's not a sort of feeling like I would feel if I was walking down a dark alley and a man with a knife was coming towards me. It's more a feeling of, I don't want to be in the same space as this revolting, horrible, alarming creature.
Okay.
It's more kind of visceral revulsion on a physical level than a psychological fear.
Yeah. And where would you feel that? If you just thinking about it now, if you allow me, we can actually try something and just reduce the feeling that you can feel and how you actually, what you're expressing. Where would you feel that? Where would you, if we could, obviously we're on air and it's just a little bit of help, so don't go too much in it. But if we could imagine there was something near you, where would you feel that, and what would happen to your body, and what's the intensity of fear that you have?
Okay, it's hard to answer, isn't it, when you've never really thought about where the fear sits or where the revulsion sits. But I'm going to say probably instinctively somewhere under my rib cage,
Okay.
top of my stomach, diaphragm sort of area. And in terms of my response, it would make me want to curl up in a ball, just go like this and be as small and far away as possible.
And what would be the intensity of the fear? Like, is it like 10 plus or 0, no fear? Like,
depends on the size of the spider.
Yeah, that's interesting. You also mentioned a really important detail, the size of it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So if it's little, I can cope. I'm just a bit like, oh, don't come near me. If it's big, the ones with the big furry legs, and
yes, okay. So if you did have that, what would be the intensity of the fear?
A really big spider, 10.
Okay.
Anywhere near it, I will be screaming. I might cry. I will be, shutting doors and probably out of the house, waiting for somebody to come and do it. If it's, just sort of like the size of a 10p, I don't want to have to touch it or be near it, but I can let it live. I can let it be there and not have a complete freak out. So it's really the big ones.
So let's think about the big one. And okay, so we know we're on 10 plus. We know that it's a big intensity. If you can take a deep breath and just close your eyes and tell me, if you could guess, what color would you need to release this high and intensity that feels right there where you feel it? What color would it be?
The color of the spider is this, or the color that?
What color would you help? What color will help you to release this feeling that actually takes over and makes you really want to leave the room?
I think blue. Blue is a good color.
Dark blue, light blue,
sort of teal blue.
Teal blue. Okay.
Sea greenish blue.
Okay. So Flic, imagine this greenish blue. Imagine above your head you had a little bucket of that nice color, and we're just going to pour it over your head and see that color going into your mind like a little river, going in, lifting and going right down where that feeling is that makes you want to run and really stop you doing things that you want to do. See that color going in, lifting, allow that color to actually do its work, lifting, making it lighter and lighter and lighter. Remind yourself you're safe, nothing's going to happen. It's just a bit of energy block that may have been blocked for quite a long time. So just see that nice color going in, a nice green going in, lifting, making it lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. So light and so soft will just flow and it'll just go wherever it needs to go. You may find a little bit of pins and needles in your hands. You may want to yearn. It may come out to your mouth or to your ears. We just want to lift that energy that's blocked in the body so that you can actually be comfortable seeing one and not having to run away or wait for some help. Just notice what that feel like, that feeling that you feel in your chest, a feeling that makes you feel really like it's revolting, it's really panicky feeling. And then notice what that feel like. And whenever you're ready, you can take a deep breath and you can open your eyes.
Okay.
Feeling okay?
Yeah. Very, very okay. Yeah.
So if there was quite a biggish spider in the room, tune back in and tell me what's the intensity and what's that feel like in your body now.
I was going to imagine one of the ones with the really big legs.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one I put on my Instagram, so you can be careful. Warning.
I'm not going to look. I'm maybe a little bit less, maybe, an 8.
Good.
I don't want to.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But yeah, maybe the actual sort of physical terror has slightly lessened because it was quite a relaxing experience to imagine the color going through. It was quite nice. Yeah, I would think maybe a little bit lessened by that.
Okay, so what's left? What do you think is left now if there was one? Where do you feel that in your body and what's that feel like?
Still a bit higher, weirdly, a bit higher, maybe here,
Yeah,
not so deeply rooted, but maybe, there's still a kind of
yeah. What happened is with energy work, what happened is you have either an incident or you copy a behavior because you've seen the shock and how the person behaved before, and the energy inside the body gets blocked. So the emotion that actually happened at the time get trapped in the body. And if we don't take it out, it will stay. And then the memory in the subconscious mind will remember that this is a danger. And therefore, every time you see it, the subconscious mind goes back to the memory that triggered this and tell you, okay, well, there's a big danger there. You need to get out. Yeah. The subconscious mind is 99% of us, and the conscious mind is just 1%. So the subconscious mind has no logic, but the subconscious mind lives in the present time. And that is why it's good in a way, because it allows people like me to go in and to change things. But the annoying thing is because it lives in the present time, is although you've grown and you're no longer in that moment and that age, because it's in the present time, if it's not been dealt with, it's in front of you every day of your life. And the minute that you see that spider, the memory will come back in and say, well, it's a big danger. I know because I've learned it. This is how I've been programmed. I need to get out of this. Now, using colors, energetic wise, what happened is you send the color in, you unblock what's been blocked for quite a long time. And hearing you saying strange enough is actually up. That's the whole idea, is we want to move that energy that's been blocked, that emotion that's been blocked for quite a long time. And ideally, what we want to do, we want to move it to the point where it may come out to your mouth or to your ears or to your hands. You may feel like you want to start yawning quite a lot. You may find a bit of pins and needles because you become more aware of the energy that you have in your body. And we're just basically unblocking, a little bit like a plumber. You've got pipes, there's a blockage, the water doesn't go through, and we unblock it, and then the water flows nicely. And that is a simple way, but a very effective way of helping you to be in a better place. Obviously, this is like we're working on air, we're just doing a little bit, a sample just to get ideas, but we can do a little bit more just so you can get to a better place. And ideally also there are other ways to do it. We could use pressure points, acupuncture without needles, tapping. We can do a whole range of breathing exercise. We can even go into the subconscious mind, or even in the memory of you watching your grandmother reacting like this and talking to the younger one and reassuring the younger one and changing the belief that your younger self has created at that specific time. That obviously will take more time because you will go in and you probably will find maybe different wrong belief and things like that. But those are different things that we can do. But right now, just to make you a bit more comfortable, do we still need the same color, or do we need a different color to dislodge what's gone up now more into your chest?
Let's try a different color. Let's
Okay.
go with a nice sort of warm pink color.
Pink. Okay, good. Excellent. So just take a deep breath and in and out. Just take a deep breath, exhale it almost. And when you take a deep breath and you just blow it out, imagine you're blowing out all that fear that's been there for a long, long time. It doesn't have to stay in your body. You can just take a deep breath and just blow it out. Let it out. Doesn't have to stay. It may have served you in certain ways until now, but it doesn't need to serve you anymore. So just close your eyes, take a deep breath, and then just blow that fear out. Don't give any power to that fear. Remind yourself that you're safe, that you have the power. And then let's put that color in. The nice pink going in into your chest. This nice little pink river, soft river going in, lifting, making it lighter and lighter and lighter. So light and so soft, they'll just flow and they'll just go wherever it needs to go. If it's to go up and out of your mouth, if it's to go down into your fingers or your feet and out of your hands or your feet, just allow that feeling in your chest to become smaller and light. Energy in the body will only come out when it's become light and soft. Energy blocked is usually heavy. People feel the heaviness inside. So just give yourself permission to make it lighter and lighter and lighter. So light and so soft, it'll just flow and it'll just go wherever it needs to go. And then pay attention to your body, and maybe your body is telling you to stretch or to move. It's just energy work. So just notice what that feel like. Then whenever you're ready, you can take a deep breath into that pink and you just can open your eyes. Yeah. How are you feeling?
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? It seems to have a sort of odd effect. Because really, I mean, in a sense, it's only you talking to me, isn't it? And telling me to imagine something, but it's actually quite helpful because you do sort of come out feeling a bit different. So yeah, it's funny because when you were talking, I had a kind of not a stabbing pain, but kind of a prickling pain down the side of this hand, which is strange. So I don't know why that would happen. But
so you can, as you do it, you become more aware of the energy inside your body. So you can feel a little bit of movement of that energy. So you can feel a little bit of pins and needles. It can move along. You can feel a bit cold, or a bit, So those are the type of things that you can feel. And that's totally normal because the energy starts moving. And so you may come out to your hands or it may come out to your mouth.
Yeah.
But let's see. Let's imagine that there is a spider again, the same size when we started, when the intensity was +10. What would that feel like now? Does that feel different in your body compared to when we started?
Less tensed up, less sort of like a ball of horror. So I'm still, I'm not hanging out with it. I don't want to sit down and chat, but it's not quite the level of sheer I have to get out immediately. It's kind of I could probably walk out rather than run out screaming now, which is a huge bonus really for me from a standing start, to be honest. Because I don't need to be in a place where I'm making friends with spiders. I just want to be not dictated to by my fear of spiders. Like, there are times, sometimes if you go to an old pub or something and there's a loo and it's a bit cold and there's always spider webs around the top of the ceiling, or, some old porches and things like that. And I will really be reluctant to ever go in those places because I just think, right, that's it. A spider's going to fall in my hair and I'm going to die, and I'll never get over it. So if I could just, get to the point where I can say, okay, it's probably not going to fall in my hair. The spider's just doing its thing up there. I can do my thing. That's great. It's fine. I just would love to not have that constant terror of going into a spidery place or a cellar or an attic.
Yeah, that's true.
Just in case you need to go and unpack a box or, find something. I will really be deeply reluctant to ever go. I've got a little flat in Manchester and there's a cellar there. And I just, every time I have to go and find something, it's just absolute horror and terror because I think that's it. A spider's going to jump out and it's going to, run at me. And
it's interesting, Flic, you actually said something really important. You said scared to die.
That's how it feels.
That is
Yeah.
that is so the spider represent the high alert of you dying. So it's fear of death
Yeah.
in instead of fear of spiders. So it's interesting because sometimes we think we have a specific fear, but actually underlining that there is a bigger picture. And it's the end picture that what it means really. So the spider is connected to fear of dying, fear of being hurt and really dying.
Yeah.
And that is why automatically, which is common sense, it will make anyone run away if the definition of spiders is different for you than for somebody else. So we're saying the same word, but completely different definition.
Yeah.
Some people will say, well, they like collecting spiders. Some people will say, I don't mind them, but obviously it doesn't really do anything to me. And some people will say, well, I think they can kill me, you know. And that is then automatically the subconscious mind has that. Of course, you're not going to stay in the same room with something that's going to kill you. That is normal.
That's really interesting because, you know, I have a lot of friends, usually male friends, and my partner will go, oh, but, you know, spiders are so great and they kill flies and they don't hurt you and they're really useful to have. And, you know, rationally, I know all that. I'm not an idiot, but I also irrationally don't care. You know, I don't care whether they kill flies or not. I just don't want to be anywhere near them. And, you know, all coming from a deep subconscious place, and you can't rationalize yourself out of a fear like that.
You can't. If somebody has a fear, you cannot use the logic to clear somebody's fear. You cannot. If you see a child is scared of dogs and will cross over the road without looking, you can't say to the child, "Oh, don't be silly. It's just a dog." It doesn't work because you actually talking a different definition. It's like talking two different languages. You can't do that. And the logic is 1% of our mind. The subconscious mind is 99%. We do majority of the things without even thinking. You know, it's like we learn how to drive. We think of all the things we have to do. And then gradually we go in the car. We don't even think about it. It's an autopilot. We just do things automatically because it's in our subconscious mind. Trying to use logic and calm somebody down when they're in full panic because they're in total fear is not going to work. Okay, you cannot resonate someone. On the contrary, they're going to get even more annoyed because you're talking a different language. They have a different definition. And if you're in total fear because you think it's going to actually kill you, the best thing to do is take some deep breaths in and out. Take control back, because when we have a fear, we lose control. And the first thing we need to do is gain control back. So you want to take some deep breaths in and out. You want to tell yourself that you're safe. But again, that is, unless you access the subconscious mind, the subconscious mind is not going to listen. So a good way to do it, obviously, is distract your mind. There are different ways of doing it. There are different energy words and sentences you can say. But just taking a deep breath and sending a color is I find one of the most effective way of releasing things, because your mind doesn't overthink when you send a color. And subconsciously, we usually wear the color on the day that we actually feel we need. And that's also interesting. I've had a client this morning, and every time they pick a color and they say, oh, you know, you're wearing that color today. And I was like, look, I was like, oh yeah, they're not even aware of it. Very often you're not even aware of the color that you need. You just go and pick and wear it. But subconsciously, the color has a meaning and it's what is surrounding you. So, and colors is probably easier to use because there's no thinking behind that. Obviously, I know what color means behind that. And I know when you pick a color, it gives me a lot of information of where you are and what you need. But yeah, so how are you feeling now?
Yeah, relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So obviously there would be more to do, and and other techniques to go into deeper, because now we actually associated that fear of spiders is actually fear of dying, which is different.
Bigger.
Bigger. Yeah, bigger. So lack of trust of moving forward in life. There could be some obstacles, there could be some things that you created. You've seen things in life where that created this fear of dying. So, and that's where you mentioned to me, not in the interview, but you mentioned before when we were talking about panic, about anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the two are linked. The fear of spiders and the anxiety are definitely linked. Hearing you now saying fear of dying, being hurt. Yeah.
I used to have panic attacks for a long time. It started when I was a teenager, and it went on through my 20s, on and off, and it really eased off in my 30s and 40s. But it's always been something that I've lived with, is having quite a high level of anxiety about various things. It could be triggered by anything. So yeah, it definitely taps into that fear that when you have a panic attack, as you know, you think you're going to die, even though you can rationalize it and say, I know this is a panic attack, I know I need to do deep breathing, it's okay. But it used to happen to me a lot in crowded places like a cinema, or a big party that I couldn't easily get out of. And as soon as it happened, I thought, right, that's it, I'm going to collapse on the floor, I'm going to make a terrible show of myself, I'm going to faint, I'm going to have a fit, I'm going to pass out, so all of that. And it just gets worse and worse and worse, because every time it doesn't happen, you think it will happen the next time.
Yeah, you anticipate, and then you create a fear of panic of the panic.
Yes, exactly that. Because by the end of it, I used to feel like the merest hint of panic, and it would suddenly be a full-blown attack, because I thought it was coming, so I kind of trigger it in myself. So yeah, I mean, luckily, touch wood, those days are gone, but it was bad for many, many years. Yeah.
You mentioned about an exit, knowing where you could get out. Do you know if you were born with a cord around your neck, or if there was difficulty when you were born?
That's really interesting. I was born, it was forceps. It was a very tough birth for my mum, and I was a forceps delivery, so they had to drag me out by the head.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think there was a cord. I can check that, but I don't think there was. But my son was actually born with the cord around his neck, so that was panic too when I gave birth. Yeah.
Yeah, because when we born the cord around the neck, we can very much later on in life become claustrophobic, because the sensation of having something near your neck, that will remind you of the experience subconsciously that you've had.
I hate having things near my neck. That's so interesting.
I had a feeling, yeah.
And when you have very high necklines, polo necks, to get it.
I can guarantee you that there was definitely a cord around the neck.
I'm going to ask my mum when we ring off.
There was definitely some blockage, or being stuck in there, not having enough air, like that sensation of and that and the you can very much define the definition of how people are born, the way they dress, and the way so you can understand sometimes, when a mum wants to put a polo neck jumper on a child, and a child screams, or a child takes all his clothes off. Well, there's nothing wrong with the child. It's because the minute you want to do that, you actually remind the child of how he was born, and the fear of being stuck and not enough air to breathe. And therefore, you're not going to want those clothes. So people will want to have scarves, will be a problem, necklaces, any tightness around the wrist, around the neck.
Yeah.
Would be
interesting that you say this, because as you can see, I am wearing a jumper with very loose sleeves, and I have my top sleeves pushed up, because I can't stand the feeling of having sleeves around my wrist. And I've never really thought about why, but every time I put a new top on, I'm like this, right, get them away from the wrists. I don't want it on my wrist.
So there's definitely the underlining feeling stuck, not enough air, and needed to get out, finding an exit. And those are where the panic come in from.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, totally makes sense.
It really does.
Once you put the pieces together, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, the conscious mind, put the understanding and why the reaction is like it, then half of the healing is happening, because then you're like, okay, well, it makes sense now. I understand why I do this or why I do that. And then you can let it go.
So interesting, because I also will just throw in that I have a terrible fear of caves as well. I've been on trips for work and things to amazing places abroad, and they've said, we're going to go and look at the caves, and it goes right underground, and I'm going, oh my god,
you wouldn't I
don't want to go right underground. No.
I'm pretty sure there was something, definitely there was not enough space, there was blockage. And but forceps delivery also is one of the was worst way of coming out into the world, because it's extremely painful. And what happened is that in the life of somebody who is, I mean, obviously everything can be changed, you can change it, but in the life of somebody who is born with forceps, the baby is so happy to come out, and then they got that really metal fork that actually squeeze the head. So every time in life that the person would want to be happy, the person is not going to let themselves be fully happy, because there is this memory of extreme pain. So there's a pattern of people who are born with forceps of not allowing themselves to be fully happy, because the memory inside subconsciously is extreme pain. So they're never going to allow themselves to be happy.
Wow. That really resonates, I have to say. I'm very scared of being too happy, because I just assume something awful will happen if I'm
It
really
did. In a sense, when you were born, it did. You had the forceps delivery, and that is, the baby is so happy to come out to meet mom, the familiar voices, and looking forward to come out. And then this massive metal squeeze, and it is extremely painful according to studies. And that is one of the belief that the baby will make at the time. The memory will be there. And every time the baby will say, well, every time the baby will be happy, and even as you grow up in life, you'll say, I can't be too happy subconsciously, because something really bad is going to happen, or I'm going to be in extreme pain. And that is unfortunately pattern that people will find in their life, and it stop them really enjoying life. And unless it can, I mean, obviously it can be changed. You can go into memory, you can do loads of things, you can do metric bursts, you can change a lot of there's loads of different techniques that I use to get into the memory, because the memory is there because you were there. So the memory is there, and you can and there are ways of remembering it and clearing it, but that is a pattern. So if you've had the cord around the neck, maybe possibly, or being stuck inside for quite a while, and then the forceps, because if you have forceps, usually you've been stuck, you're not coming out. So there is this cave, going into a cave will be being stuck and not be out. So
really feels like
so that would create all this, and that creates, this is why people want to say they have different children, same parents, the children are different, because different birth experience, different, the parents are more lax or more anxious the first time. There's lots of different things that will create that. But I wouldn't be surprised, the way we described the way you were born, that panic would have been experiencing panic attack would have come into your life the way you come into your life. Then automatically you would, once the conscious mind kicks in at the age of 7+, and gradually other things come along, that would experience panic attack.
Interesting. Nobody has ever talked about this before. It's fascinating.
I've
always known it was forceps birth, and I did wonder if it ever had something to do with my anxieties. So that really
definitely has. It's and those when you think of anxiety, try not to say my, because when something belongs to you, you want to keep it. When you lose something, you look for it. So it's quite interesting to say, okay, de-anxiety, or it does, this anxiety. But when something belongs to you and we say mine, then the subconscious mind gets mixed up and says, okay, well, if it belongs to me, why should I let it go? Because that I own it. So that's another way of say, okay, it's not part of me. It's been there because of a reason. And the reason is to keep you safe in that sense. So, but obviously the conscious mind feels panicky because it's not comfortable to go through a panic attack. In an ideal world, you would let the person have the panic attack and making sure the person is safe, but letting go through, because what happens is actually the emotions of the energy gets blocked so much that the body is creating this panic attack to release the energy block. And if you let the person shake or whatever happen, after a while, it will go back to normal. But obviously we interfere because it's shocking, it's scaring, and we have to make sure that the person is safe. But in the animal world, you could if you Google it, you will see a bear literally having a panic, shaking for 20 minutes and letting it out, and then gets up and then just like nothing happened. But we interfere, and then because we interfere, it gets stuck and it stays in there. And then you then have the panic of the panic, and then it gets more and more, and then you say, well, when is it going to happen next? So those type of things. So
Yeah.
that was just to explain, so that at least now you understand who you are and why this is happening. So Flic, would you also tell our listeners what you do, and so they know a bit more, and then if they need you, and where they can find you, and
Yeah, I'm a freelance editor and journalist, and I have a website which is just fliceverett.com, which lists what I do and how to get in touch with me.
And why do you write about specific subject, or?
I write mainly about lifestyle and food at the moment. I've written about everything over the years, travel, relationships, the whole thing. But at the moment, I'm doing a lot on food and a lot about dogs, actually. I write a lot about dogs and animals, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, dogs, actually, there's an increase on people having dogs.
Yes.
Especially, because I've had an increase of clearing fear of dogs, because there's so many dogs. So I've had definitely increase of helping children and adults with fear of dogs, because there's so many more dogs out there.
Right, I might have to interview you about that.
And food is a big trigger. Food emotionally is a big trigger. We can become allergic to something if we associate the emotion to the ingredient. And also the event. If you could even become, I would say allergic, but intolerant to food if you had an argument at the table and you were eating something, and then your memory will put the two together, and then that food will no longer have the same definition.
Oh,
food is really interesting.
I'm going to think about what I don't like eating now and try and remember if I was ever eating it when I was having an argument.
I had a lady who she was not so much like she couldn't walk into a room if she saw an orange, and turned out to be that when she one day she actually picked up the phone, heard really sad news. She was eating an orange at the time.
Oh my God.
And it got to the point that she could not walk into a room if there was an orange in the room.
Oh, poor woman. I can understand that. It's very sensory, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're seeing it and everything.
Yeah. And I helped a little boy who was scared of bananas, and he wouldn't even go in a room either if there was a banana in a room. And that is connected to, in school, sometimes kids chasing you with a banana, bullying you. And so the association, again, is the definition of banana is different than somebody else with just a banana. So it's very important that food, you put the right definition, that food is food, and that item is just an apple is just an apple. Nothing is, no attachment emotionally attached to it. And then you actually eat you should be eating, and not the way you go for to either you avoid it because it represents something dangerous, or you take more of it because you have a happy memory of it and you want to recreate that. And so it'd be interesting, to write about food and dogs. Thank you so much today, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, great. Thank you. Made me think about loads of things.
So, and thank you to our listeners for listening to the Fearbuster show, and looking forward to next week talking about another fear.